let we lime, come let we vibe, lime vibe. Lime vibe.
Check 1 2, check 1 2. Good night, everybody, and welcome once again to another LimeVibe Live podcast. I'm your host, the magnificent one, Yori Yarman Kemp here from Nassau, Bahamas. A rainy night in Nassau, Bahamas, actually. We're undergoing a tropical storm watch in the southeastern part of the Bahamas. But it's been discontinued, though. But we're still watching out for heavy flooding and heavy rains. But we'll get to that in a minute. But thank you for joining me for another LimeVibe Live podcast. I'm Yori Kemp, as I said. And if you have not done so, please like, share, and subscribe to our Facebook and YouTube page, LimeVibe77. That's LimeVibe77 on Facebook and YouTube. And it would help us out a great deal, actually. And also, there's a donate link inside the description. So please, anything that you choose to give to the LimeVibe Live podcast, please do so. We would greatly appreciate it. It could be as little as $5 or as great as $50,000. We'll appreciate any kind of donation and support you could give to the LimeVibe Live podcast. So here we go. We were talking about this tropical storm warning that they had. They had a tropical storm warning for the southeastern part of the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands, but it's since been discontinued. It was a tropical storm watch for a tropical cyclone 22. That was supposed to develop, or they thought was going to develop into tropical storm Vince, but it has not done so. It doesn't expect it to do so. But still, the southeastern part of the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands should still watch out for heavy rains and flash flooding in the southeastern part of the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands. So just be mindful of that. So thank God we're not going to have a tropical storm in the southeastern part of the Bahamas, or any part of the Bahamas, actually. So thank God it's going to dissipate and it's not going to be a storm or a hurricane. So I just thank God. But we still have to pray for our people in Hispaniola, Dominican Republic, and Haiti, and Jamaica, who are still going through this tropical cyclone 22. Okay, like I said, it was supposed to develop into tropical storm Vince, but that tropical storm warning has been since put to the side, scrapped. It's not going to be a tropical storm anymore. It's just going to be the regular tropical cyclone 22, and is expected to drop a lot of rain and some flash flooding. So just be careful anyway. Okay, from one tragedy to one expected tragedy or proposed tragedy or thought of tragedy to another sad thing, another sad tragedy. There was an excursion that sunk off of the coast of New Providence early on this week. One Colorado woman died. It was a popular excursion to the world-famous Blue Lagoon Island. So it was a boat that traveled from Nassau, the port of Nassau, to, no, not the port of Nassau, yeah, from the port of Nassau off Bay Street, heading towards the Blue Lagoon Island, the world-famous Blue Lagoon Island, and had over 100 tourists on the boat, the excursion boat, the pleasure boat. And it sunk off the coast, not too far from their final destination on Blue Lagoon Island. And of course, you've probably seen all the clips floating around the media. If you follow news about boating accidents and South Florida news, where you go to any South Florida station, you would see video, the dramatic video, captured by people who were on the boat, just taking video as they were being rescued and as the boat was sinking. You know, I guess these cell phone cameras are with us now. You know. Everyone's going to take a picture anywhere they are. They're going to be dying. A gun pointed at them, they're going to have their cell phone picture out there, right? But we thank them for the footage. We thank them for the footage because it's on Caribbean Magazine Plus as well. So if you go to Carib Mag Plus, it's our lead story there on Carib Mag Plus. It's called Excursion Boat Sunk off the coast of Nassau, killing one. Go right there and you'll see the story, and you'll see it laid out, and you'll see what happened and what transpired, how they left early that Tuesday morning around 9:30 from Bay Street, Nassau. Head towards the Blue Lagoon Island. About less than an hour after it left, the boat started to take on water and sunk. You know, just a tragedy, man. Just an insane tragedy. I feel for the lady that lost her life, and all those people who were scarred and traumatized by being on a sinking ship. It must have been a very, very scary thing. You know, I pray for the family of the woman who died. You know, but some people have said there's nothing much that anyone could have done. You know, there's nothing that anybody could have done in that situation. You know, the captain tried his best to keep the boat, you know, from going overboard, but there was nothing he could do. It was just an unfortunate situation. It had nothing to do with the seaworthiness of the boat either, because boats can be 100 years old and sail perfectly, and some boats can be less than 2 years old and, you know, fail miserably and sink. Like the Titanic. The Titanic was on its maiden voyage. So the age of the boat has nothing to do with the seaworthiness of the boat. So put that out of your mind. So it's just one of those accidents. You know, we have to do a thorough investigation to find out what happened and why that boat sank not too far off the coast of the Blue Lagoon Island. And we just hope that we can keep this kind of incidents like this under a very, 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 very close lid, you know, and ensure that, you know, these excursions are fully registered and these boats are able to carry the passengers they say they're going to carry. And ensure that all the captains have licenses and they're trained in emergency situations like this. But the video I saw, everyone had life jackets, so the boat was fortified, and the captain did his best trying to keep the boat afloat until help reached. You know, the videos I saw, my little knowledge, my limited knowledge of boating, the captain luckily he did his best. You know, just a tragic accident and nothing anyone could have done about it. You know, I guess, like I said, I'm sorry for the lady that lost life, but hopefully, you know, she finds her family finds some solace, and they find some sort of closure to the loss of their loved one. A 77-year-old woman from Colorado, they say. Yeah, such tragic, man, such tragedy. And our next story, I don't know if you guys have been noticing. Oh, shoot, my mic fell. I don't know if you guys have been noticing, but you know, the cost of things are very expensive here in the Bahamas and the Caribbean, man. We're paying too much for food. You know, inflation is a serious thing. We cannot pay for food. And about 2 weeks ago, the governor of the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago said that inflation in the region is about 70% of it is being imported. All right, that means we import inflation. We don't, it has nothing to do with our monetary policy, it has nothing to do with the central bank, has nothing to do with more money in the circulation, has nothing to do with people buying more stuff in excess. It has to do with the things that we import. 70% of it is imported inflation. So stick a pin right there. So 70% of it is imported. And we know that most of it, if not 80% of that 70%, has to be food. Has to be food items. And so we have to think about feeding ourselves here in the Caribbean, man. And he follows Dr. Alvin Hilaire is his name. Dr. Alvin Hilaire. He's the governor of Central Bank. He was at a forum for the IDB. They hosted several central bank governors from around the region, Latin America and the Caribbean, to talk about the recent issues and inflation. And he also mentioned that coming out of the pandemic, you know, it was his policy in Trinidad to allow for more liquidity in the market so that people had more access to credit. And that's where he started to talk about inflation, because people were wondering, well, wait, how come you could just flood the market with money and don't have inflationary pressure, where the inflationary pressure was almost similar to that of the Latin American countries who tightened monetary policy at a time of high inflation. Well, the Caribbean countries kept their monetary policy. Either they lifted, either they dropped rates, or they maintained the low rates that they had beforehand. And they had the same impact from inflation. But people don't know this, though. Most countries in the Caribbean, they're on a fixed exchange rate regime. So there's very little monetary policy can do for a small closed, I shouldn't say closed, a small open economy with a fixed exchange rate with a central bank. There's very little monetary policy can do, because most of us spend US dollars anyway. And that really counts. So at the end of the day, there's really nothing monetary policy could do for inflation. There's nothing any Ministry of Finance or any economic analyst inside the Caribbean, any Caribbean country could do about inflation. We just have to ensure that we work with Ministry of Agriculture to find a way we can feed ourselves. You know, that's important. That leads me to my third story. The Food and Agricultural Organization, the FAO, said in a recent report that the high cost of food is linked to the growing amount of inequality in Latin America and Caribbean. So that means not only that we can't feed ourselves, but it's also killing ourselves. It's putting our people into starvation because we can't feed ourselves. The high cost of food is linked to the growing amount of inequality in Latin America and the Caribbean, the LAC region. The high cost of food. So the food we import in that we could barely afford, is causing the amount of inequality. The report, it's called the Regional Overview of Food Security and Nutrition in 2023 from the FAO in conjunction with the United Nations and PAHO, the report said Latin America and the Caribbean not only registers high levels of inequality, it also records the highest cost of healthy food. That means we're spending too much for food, for healthy food. Okay? This indicator calculated by the FAO identified the least cost healthy diet available at each given time and place and meets recommendations from food-based dietary guidelines. Across the region in 2020, 131 million people could not afford a healthy diet. The unaffordability of healthy diets strongly affects the nutrition and health of most vulnerable populations, including children and women. Inequality in access to and access to nutritious food is associated with hunger, stunting in children under 5 years, and anemia in women 15 to 49 years of age. We need a common agricultural policy for the Caribbean. Straight up, we need a common agricultural policy for the Caribbean. That's like what they have in Europe, where, some countries produce potatoes, some produce vegetables, and they also pool who has the best competitive and comparative advantage. They create the best produce and they share it with each other. And they've also dropped tariff barriers to those products. We have to get a common agricultural policy for the Caribbean. We have to. We have to sit at the table and find a way where we can say, hey, if Guyana produces broccoli and carrots and Jamaica produces cassava and yams, hey, can we just put money into those countries, or can we give those countries the kind of support they need to produce and give them the kind of technical support they need to produce these produce on a mass scale to get them to the rest of us, where we can have access to these healthy foods? We need a common agricultural policy, man. Now, I'm not an agriculturist or an agri-economist, but I feel something like that could work. And it would build the Caribbean. But anyway, I'm always a dreamer. People don't listen to me, but I'm only a dreamer. We need a common agricultural policy. I'm not sure what they have in the CARICOM. I haven't investigated it, but that's something that we need to consider here for the Caribbean. A common agricultural policy. Because we're spending too much for food anyway. We're spending way too much for food. And there was a story out that I read about several years back that mangoes from Haiti actually go into the United States before it's re-imported back here into the Caribbean because of some safety protocol. So you're killing Haitian farmers who need the money, who need the support. So you're putting a clamp on them by sending their produce to Florida and selling it back to us at a higher price to check their mangoes. Something sounds very sinister. I don't believe that story. Something's wrong there. There's no way anyone should feel bound or beholden to any company in Florida to bring mangoes from Haiti back into the Caribbean to the rest of us. No one should be beholden to that. There's no contract that could withstand a court, a common law court, or a federal court. There's no law, there's no contract that can withstand the rigors of the law. You can't box me and say I have to buy mangoes from Haiti through you. That just don't sound right. Some things just don't sound logical. Anyway, we box ourselves into these things. We do the most stupidest things sometimes when we're ready. So, like I said, we need a common agricultural policy here in the Caribbean. And we need to work on that. I know Dr. Irfan Ali in Guyana, the president of Guyana, he's been doing a lot of work with regard to agriculture. I'm not sure exactly if he's working towards a common agricultural policy, but he's been heralded as being someone who's been championing agriculture. Maybe it's just a bunch of talk. I haven't heard anything significant out of it aside from the fact that he's been winning awards and he's been championing, developing agriculture, providing subsidies and pushing for subsidies and support for agriculture in the Caribbean. I just hope that something manifests out of this, And we've had agricultural seminars years on years on years. And I think there's finally more of a concerted effort towards making sure that we pay agriculture more serious attention. But, we need to push the pedal to the metal. We need to get to feeding ourselves by 2030. We need to remove at least 30% of these imports by 2030. And it can be done if we have a common agricultural policy. If Jamaica produces yams and cassavas in the boatload, drop our tariffs to bring those yams and cassavas in. If Guyana makes carrots and broccoli, let's support them in making sure that their farmers can produce that more efficiently, get them the technical support, get them the money, the seed money, and let's put a fund in together so we can support these industries so we can have better produce amongst ourselves and we can build up agriculture in the Caribbean. That's what needs to happen. Oh, before I became a talk show host, I was an economist as well. So I know exactly how some of these things could work out. So yeah, I studied political economy at the London School of Economics, by the way. I'm studying law right now, so I guess it'll go hand in hand. But yeah, that's what we need. Before I became a talk show host and a journalist, I wear many hats, many hats. This podcast, I'm Jesse. I've clowned around really. This is something I'm getting off on in my older years. This is like I'm going through like a midlife crisis now. This is something I want to build. And I would like to see what this is going to be in the next year, the LimeVibe podcast. What's going to happen with it? So I'm just going to keep pushing, guys, and keep supporting me, keep watching it, and keep liking and subscribing to our Facebook page and our YouTube page, LimeVibe77. That's LimeVibe77 on Facebook and YouTube. And there's a donate link inside the description. So please, anything that you feel free to give to the LimeVibe Live podcast, please do so. We're going to get a Cash App as well in a short amount of time. We have Venmo. We can put Venmo up. So please stick with us. Another story that's coming out of the South America part of the Caribbean, out of Suriname. Apparently, the current Vice President, Ronnie Brunswick, and the former ex-president, now jailed president, ex-president Desi Boudizer. I got his name. Someone pronounced his name to me. I thought all the time I was pronouncing them as Boutersi. There's actually Boudizer, So, U.S. and Colombian investigators have connected Suriname's Vice President Ronnie Brunswick and ex-president Desi Boudizer to recent involvement in drug trafficking, according to hacked emails that suggest ongoing high-level political links to organized crime in the South America's smallest country, Suriname. The emails were among a treasure trove of documents stolen from the Colombia's Attorney General's office in 2022 and provided to a consortium of journalists, including Inside Crime. This is where I got the story from, actually, from the Inside Crime. They're doing tremendous work in Latin America and the Caribbean in regard to making sure that they keep their eyes on crime and the criminal element, from cocaine trafficking to human smuggling, to anything you name, anything crime-related inside the Caribbean, Latin America, Inside Crime knows. The allegations in the emails add to the persistent rumors that Brunswick and Baudizer's role in cocaine trafficking through Suriname, for which both have been convicted in the past. Aha. They allegedly act as brokers, using their connections in Suriname's government to facilitate cocaine smuggling in exchange for bribes. So we just can't escape this cocaine rap, man. We just can't escape this cocaine rap. No matter which country in the Caribbean, we are a transshipment gateway to Europe and the United States and Canada. But something, the demand of those countries are pretty high. If they would stop using drugs, maybe there wouldn't be such a market, such a demand for us to actually produce cocaine and fentanyl now to these developed countries. I visited Colorado recently, and it's a marijuana state too. And trust me, when I walk the streets in Colorado, we were in Boulder for a while. I've seen nothing but spaced out people, man. It's embarrassing, man. And I feel for those people because they should not have let drugs become legal, man. Because you're going to get that. I've been watching some videos on YouTube as well. Some places in Philadelphia is actually like a zombie apocalypse, man. Those people are out of their minds, stoned out of their minds because of drugs. Why are Americans medicating themselves to that extent? Why are they hurting themselves like that? Anyway, that's another story for another day. That's their business. But on to something light, though. I don't know if you've been following the Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith saga. Now, somebody else popped out and said that Will Smith has been having a homosexual relationship with actor-comedian Dwayne Martin. Dwayne Martin also starred on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air back in the 90s as Dwayne Johnson. He had it was a recurring role, but not a stable kind of full-time role. It popped in every now and then. this just puts another wrinkle in the Will and Jada Pinkett Smith, relationship. I know you guys probably remember that about 2 weeks ago, Jada Pinkett Smith said her and Will have been separated since 2016, and they haven't been living in the same quarters since 2016. Notwithstanding that, Will had just smacked the taste out of Chris Rock's mouth at the 2022 94 Academy Awards in 2022 last year. And he smacked him. Will Smith smacked Chris Rock for talking about Jada Pinkett Smith, saying how she had a bald head, now she's not a private G.I. Jane. Wow. Yeah, but Will and Jada Smith and their people, they've denied the claims that Dwayne Martin has been having a homosexual relationship, as they should. And Dwayne Martin, his ex-wife now, Tisha Campbell, who was the Tisha Campbell from the Martin Show, of Martin fame, she said, why don't you just leave these people alone? And, why don't we leave Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith alone? You know why? Because they keep pushing themselves up in our face. They keep coming up. So we keep finding new dirt. There's nothing wrong with them being homosexual, but I think there's something wrong with Will and Jada Pinkett Smith always being in our face looking for attention, man. It's becoming very, very perverse, to be honest with you. I think that they need to pull away from the limelight, man. This is too much. This is too open now. Ever since she came out and humiliated Will Smith at the Red Table Talk, saying that she had an entanglement with August Alsina, and it's been downhill ever since. It's been just smut and sleaze straight down the pipe. It's becoming just so disgusting to watch this saga. And now we have, Will Smith smacking Chris Rock. We have Jada Pinkett Smith still saying she loves Tupac, and how her and Will Smith have been separated since 2016. And now we have the homosexual allegations that, Will Smith has been having homosexual relations with Dwayne Martin. And we've heard homosexual rumors about Will Smith for the past 20 years now. However, no one ever came forward until this time. Now, this guy didn't come forward. Someone blew the whistle on them. And of course, he's denying it as well as his ex-wife, Tisha Campbell, denying it as well. But, it's out in the open now. So I guess a lot of people, it just confirms what they already knew about Will Smith. Let me play the TMZ video so I can show you what they have to say. Let me play a TMZ video for you. Let me share my screen. YouTube has been acting kind of funny now. You can't really share the screen anymore and get audio, but I'll see if it works. If it plays back, let me know. If it doesn't play back, then, well, the hell with it. Let's share the screen. Share screen. Let's go. TMZ. Wow. Hey, it's your friends who always do it to you, The ones who are closest to you are the ones who always stab you in the back. You should sue. Yeah, and Harold Levin, the guy who said that you have to prove that it subjects you to ridicule or scorn. I've just been doing a defamation class as well, too, actually. taught class talking about defamation. You have to expose a person to ridicule and embarrassment, and it must bring down their stature, and it must defame them. And calling Will Smith gay and disrupting his marriage is kind of, it does bring down, it does affect his life and his earning capacity. It's something he could sue on, and it has lowered his stature in people's eyes. So Tasha K, as you've heard as well, she is a Tasha K who broke it on her podcast that this friend of Will Smith, broke it on her podcast that, he broke in and saw Dwayne Martin and Will Smith having sex. And this is the same Tasha K who's being sued by Cardi B, the rapper Cardi B, for $3.4 million for making more unfounded allegations on her podcast. Tasha K won't learn, man. And, Jada Pinkett Smith says she's going to sue, and she should sue, trying to destroy her good marriage. A marriage she's done so well in destroying herself. You got to stay out of these people's business, man. Jada and Will got a funny relationship going on. I'm not sure what it is, but, I don't think anyone would want to mess with them in any event. They're still kind of powerful. But let's have a recap, man. Like I said, the tropical storm Vince is not going to be a tropical storm Vince. It's going to remain as a tropical cyclone 2020. Tropical cyclone 2022, actually. Tropical cyclone 22, my apologies. And it will not form in the tropical storm Vince. But yes, we have to watch out for heavy rains and flash floods in the southeastern part of the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos. The Dominican Republic and Jamaica, they're still going through some flash floods and heavy rains. But it's not expected. The tropical cyclone 22 is not expected to transform into a tropical storm Vince. Okay, so that's good. The Bahamas are declared, and Dominican Republic are still out of clear with regard to a tropical storm, but just gonna have a lot of heavy rains. Also, there's a popular excursion boat that sunk off the coast in Nassau. We talked about that. Off of the Blue Lagoon Island, the popular Blue Lagoon Island. That excursion was ran by Dolphin Encounters. I know the people at the Meisters who own Dolphin Encounters. And and they've been doing this for years, over 20 years. Gotta be more than 20 years. They've been running these excursions to Blue Lagoon Island. And it's a very popular island. It's world-renowned Blue Lagoon. And a 75-year-old woman died while the boat was sinking. And there's a lot of footage, but if you go to Carib Mag Plus, you'll see our story right there of this excursion, sinking. We have the video up there as well. We have the full story of what actually happened from when they left 9:30 on Tuesday. And they sunk about close to an hour later off the coast of the Blue Lagoon Island. So, yeah, watch out for that. Then we also spoke about inflation in the Caribbean, how monetary policy can do nothing with regard to inflation in the Caribbean. We import all of our inflation. We import inflation. There's nothing monetary policy can do with regard to inflation. And the central bank governor from the Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Alvin Hilaire, said just as much, that he hasn't been seeing the wage price spiral in terms of inflation, because monetary policy is ineffective in regard to inflation, because we import our inflation. We import our inflation from the United States and Canada and our larger trading partners who are paying higher prices themselves. We don't produce anything. And we talked about getting a common agricultural policy for the Caribbean, where we support countries that have endowed benefits and endowed factors, and they create or they produce certain produce. Like, for example, if Jamaica has yams and cassava, let's support Jamaica and drop our duties to bring in those yams and cassava. I guess that's what the CSME was supposed to do, but I think the CSME was going too far, and we could just work on these little basic things, like a common agricultural policy where we support these other islands who produce certain things, and we could support them, and we could build their industries, and we could work on their comparative advantage. We could work on their competitive advantage. That's what we should do, because we have to get to feeding ourselves by 2030. That's one of our goals, the 2030 goals. We have to reduce import duties by a certain percentage by 2030, and we can't do it without, supporting agriculture. So we need a common agricultural policy, because inflation will only continue like this. I remember when gasoline was under $3 a gallon, $3 US a gallon. Now that they found that we could pay more, and it's gone up in the late 90s, early 2000s, when they found we could actually pay more, they started to stick it to us. And now we'll never get gasoline under $5 again. A gallon of gas under $5. We won't see that again because they know we can pay the price. And a tin of vegetable soup, we won't see it under $3 again either. Or a tin of Chunky's vegetable soup, we won't see it under $4 again because they know we'll pay the price. That's because we have no other option. We need to invest in agriculture in the Caribbean. We need to support Jamaica. They produce a certain thing. We need to support Ghana. They produce a certain thing. We need to support the Bahamas. They produce a certain thing. And we should not be importing fruits in the Caribbean. We should not be importing fruits. Things like bananas we have here. Use our local native fruits, man. We don't need apples. Maybe grapes. Grapes are kind of popular. We don't need to import apples and oranges and pineapples. What are we doing? What the hell are we mangoes? What the hell are we doing? Tamarind. I've been seeing tamarinds being imported from the Philippines in our grocery stores here in Nassau. That's insane. We have tamarinds that grow wild here. Invest in these fruit trees. Invest in these fruits. That makes too much sense, right? We've been cutting down all these trees, making way for all these development, and we're forgetting that these trees can actually sustain and feed us, man. We should not be importing mangoes from anywhere else. We shouldn't be importing oranges. We shouldn't be importing bananas. We have sugar bananas here. When we have sugar bananas, we can create the Chiquita bananas here as well. So anyway, that's my soapbox tonight. And the FAO, the Food and Agricultural Organization, our other story said that, we're paying too much for food anyway. And it's leading to the inequality in the region because there are a lot of people, over 131 million people don't have access to healthy food. The Food and Agricultural Organization said, the FAO said. In their report, the Regional Overview of Food Security and Nutrition in 2023 said Latin America and the Caribbean not only registers high levels of inequality, it also records the highest cost of healthy food. That means we can't even get the healthy food, man. It's costing too much. We need to invest in agriculture, man. Another story was that the ex-president of Suriname, Desi Bouterse, and the current vice president, Ronnie Brunswick, they've been, linked to emails from the Colombian Attorney General's office that they've been involved in cocaine trafficking. That's been reported in several news outlets. Inside Crime is where I got the story from. They've been doing a great job with regard to tracking crime in the region. So you may want to go to their website, Insight Crime, and take a look at what they have to say about the Suriname ex-president and the current vice president. Also, we've also published it on the Caribbean Magazine Plus as well, so you probably could go there and take a look there. You can see out there. We won't leave the coke alone, man. It's too lucrative, and Americans want the cocaine so badly. The Europeans want the cocaine so badly. They're willing to spend money on it, man. Anyway, lastly, we talked about Will Smith, having an alleged homosexual affair with Dwayne Martin that everyone's denied. And I guess you probably heard that Jada Pinkett Smith, she's going to sue Tasha K for breaking that story on Tasha K's podcast, using one of Will Smith's former friends to break the story on her podcast. The guy said he walked in on, Will Smith in Dwayne Martin's dressing room having sex. And to be honest with you, the guy who broke the story, he looks kind of moist too anyway. So maybe one of Will Smith's lovers, who knows? Who knows? Maybe a jilted lover who wanted Will and couldn't get any more, right? But that's just allegations. That's neither here nor there. But there's always been homosexual rumors about Will Smith going on about there. It's nothing brand new. But I do hope that if it's false that Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith, I hope that they sue, because you can't destroy a man's reputation like that and destroy his marriage like that. Even though Jada Pinkett Smith says she's been, separated from Will Smith in 2016, it's still her husband, and she has to protect his name and his profile and stature. And to think of it, that while Will and Jada Smith were at last year's Academy Awards, when Will Smith smacked the taste out of Chris Rock's mouth, that they were separated. Who could have believed that? That's just amazing to me. And he sat there knowing those two were separated, knowing they were separated, and got so hell-bent on trying to please Jada Pinkett Smith. And she's been separated from you, man. She's still pining over Tupac. Will Smith is a simp, man. At the very least. I'm not saying he's homosexual, he's a simp at least. I didn't realize he was that soft. Or that flaccid. You know, I didn't realize he was like that, man. But he's a bad role model for the rest of us. I'm actually telling you that right now. But otherwise than that, I want to thank you for joining me for another LimeVibe Live podcast. We had fun here tonight. We got, some good stories out tonight. And please, like I said, if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to our Facebook and YouTube page. That's LimeVibe77. That's LimeVibe77 on Facebook and YouTube. It really helps us out a lot. And also, there's a donate link inside the description. So anything that moves your heart to give to the LimeVibe podcast, we would greatly appreciate it. So you could give me $5, it could be $50,000. Just give us your support. We really would appreciate it. But also like, share, and subscribe to our page. So I just want to say thank you for joining me again for another LimeVibe Live podcast. I'm your host, Yari Armin Kemp, and we're going to sign off here tonight. Thank you so much. Let's get out of here. Short show. There we go. Let's get John G. Bundle and get out of here. Computer audio. Let's play outro music. There you go. Bang.